Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Thursday, 12 February. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about the US Attorney General Pam Bondi has been grilled over the Epstein files. El Paso flights have resumed after anti-drone laser testing, and Russia moves to block WhatsApp, pushing a state-backed rival. So firstly, the United States Attorney General Pam Bondi on Wednesday answered questions regarding the department's handling of files related to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Department of Justice faced increased scrutiny over the release of 3 million files of redacted documents that had exposed sensitive information about Epstein survivors, something that had been ordered by Congress. Bondi has also been criticized for the pace at which the Epstein files are being released. So what? If you haven't seen the clips from the interview, it's well worth going to have a watch. It's pretty crazy. Like she uses the defense. Well, she attempts to use like Trump's handling of the economy to like avoid questioning. They essentially just turns into a screaming match between senators and herself. It's very bizarre. One senator also believed that he caught her out in a lie, which would be perjury and would essentially require her to be removed from her position, which she just yelled at him about. So, pretty crazy. Also, earlier, I think Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, had a similar interview, which went a similar way. There's also like victims of Jeffrey Epstein there who all basically, I don't know, were used as like an example of people that have asked to be interviewed or asked to provide evidence around the sex offences that happened to them, but have just been ignored by both the FBI and the Justice Department. So to me, it seems possible that Bondi and Patel are kind of front runners at the moment to face the most significant backlash. And, if the tide turns against Trump, I feel like is likely to use them as scapegoats to essentially take the heat. And to me, regardless, we need to keep talking about this story. I posted a reel about it last night. I'm naming these 6 high net worth individuals who were accidentally redacted in the documents. So, keep talking about it, keep watching videos about it. If we don't, it will almost certainly just disappear into nothingness. And next, a confusing series of events left airlines and passengers in El Paso, Texas, wondering why the airspace over the city in the US state of Texas could suddenly be closed for 10 days for special security reasons, and then reopened just hours later. Government officials speaking on the condition of anonymity, to be anonymous, fucking hell, told reporters that the FAA closed the airspace over concerns that the US military laser-based counter-drone system could possibly pose a risk to air traffic. The FAA and the Department of Defense had planned to discuss the issue at a meeting on February the 20th, but the Army proceeded without FAA approval, sources said, leading the FAA to halt flights. In addition to this, the Trump administration said on Wednesday that drones had been operated by drug cartels in Mexico and had breached US airspace, prompting a temporary closure of the airspace around El Paso. The FAA announced the 10-day closure of the airspace around the city, but hours later, that's exactly what we've already talked about. So what? To me, is a very strange situation. Like, there's conflicting reports about why the airspace closed, what was happening. And to me, this kind of looks at the possibility of, testing classified weapons or aircraft, or, using new technology near the border to possibly counter these Mexican drone incursions. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And it kind of, to me, it shows the difference between now with the power of social media to spread information and say World War II when the Manhattan Project was happening, because, that was a significant technological research and would have had a high degree of lots of people would have noticed it happening, massive explosions in the desert. People are going to fucking take notice. But because of there being no social media, no one can talk about it, and it just kind of fades into nothingness. Whereas now, if something like this happens, it spreads like absolute wildfire. And lastly, Russia has attempted to block the Meta platforms owned by what Meta Platforms owned. Oh, they wanted to block WhatsApp in the country. The company said on Wednesday as Moscow tightens its control over foreign technology firms and promotes national messaging apps. A WhatsApp spokesperson said that the move was aimed to pushing users towards a state-owned surveillance app. Russian authorities are pushing a state-backed app rivaling WhatsApp named Max, which critics argue could enable surveillance of users, although state media have dismissed these accusations as false. We continue to do everything to keep users connected, WhatsApp said in a comment. So what? This is kind of a similar thing to what we talked about yesterday around Telegram, and it's likely due to, the high levels of security concerns within Russia at the moment, especially those around espionage, especially following last week's attempted assassination of a general. Stuff like that brings this type of stuff to the forefront. And if you look at it from Russia's point of view, it makes sense. It's highly likely that Western intelligence agencies can get legal access to WhatsApp and other messaging platforms despite their claims at encryption. So why wouldn't Russia want to put people towards their own type of messaging app? It's far better for their own internal security, and it also allows them to surveil the messages as a way of identifying, threats against the Russian state. It makes sense, but Russians are still unlikely to trust the Max app, as they don't trust the government. It kind of goes back to the Soviet times of being very hesitant of what the government are up to. So yeah, unsurprising, but still interesting. Something to keep an eye on. Anyway, that's been your Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.